Involvement in people. You know, it's all about the people.
Involvement in people, indeed. I'm going to turn it this way because that's the way you should on the internet. Okay, super. Well, welcome to our 5 questions and 5 answers series, and thank you for being a part of it, Miss Kitty.
You're welcome.
Would you please describe the role of the Ford County Historical Society in Dodge City?
Well, that's really hard to explain, because the basic role of any historical society is to maintain the records and information about your community and the people who live in that community, the generations, if you would. Things that we are talking about that happened long time ago seem to be of no interest to the ones today because they're not attached to it. And that's because we've lost that communication with people. So I would say that our function is to keep that communication going and remind the younger generations of the generations that were here before them and what they played, the part that they played in making the community that the youth enjoy today.
Well said.
Long answer, but there's a lot involved when you're talking about history.
Absolutely. And it could have been a million times longer. So that was a very succinct answer, truly, when it comes to trajectory. Thank you. So I guess going forward with the first question, what are the most pressing challenges facing our community at a local level right now?
Well, again, it's a multi-area, kind of a broad question, because are we talking economic? Are we talking cultural? Are we talking, infrastructure? All of those things affect a community. I don't think Dodge City is any different than any other community across the nation if you start comparing things. It's just that in our community, we've decided to do them all at once. And it has put some strains on not only the city of Dodge City, but Ford County as a whole, that also has other communities in the county. And so we're all being affected by that. And ultimately, we hope that the things that we're doing to enhance our community, whether historically with the Downtown Scape project or out in our county with the new cheese plant that's coming in, all of those things, the upgrade of our highways, going from 2-lane to 4-lane, all of that is happening around us. And so it does impact, and it doesn't happen with a snap of your fingers or a magic wand. It takes time. And the time is then affected by things that happen in nature, for instance, storms, or to name one. But the thing about it is, it does affect every level of people in the community, and businesses, your industries. And of course, we are an agricultural industry by most, even though we're trying to encourage other industries here. It has an effect, and I have learned one thing: time marches on and waits for no one.
Well said. Well said. Question number 2. Considering the evolving media landscape, what role do you see local newspapers playing in the community 5 years from now? It's not very long. Oh my.
Yes, and a person who likes opening a newspaper and reading the actual print and not trying to do it on a device, I'd like to go back there. Personally.
Yes.
However, technology is here today, and we need to embrace it and figure out how we're going to be able to use that. And I think that one thing that I noticed right now is that it's generational. Our young people are embracing the technology and they like things on a small screen, but yet we have 3 and 4 generations, which means we've got grandparents, great-grandparents that like getting their news the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
It's not old-fashioned. I mean, getting our news from when we started a country almost 250 years ago still comes from the local newspaper. And in the field that I'm working in with the Historical Society is, if it hadn't been for our newspapers, I wouldn't be able to tell you what happened in the 1800s, 1900s. I think that is what bothers me a little bit about technologies. We're losing that. We are losing that newspaper that you put your hand on that you can later digitalize, get the terminology here, and then you can reference it. And I'm thinking, so what do my grandchildren have to reference if everything is on this little phone and we didn't keep anything? There's no hard copy. So we've just got to figure out how to make them work together. So, and
I must interject that Mrs. Penick has been a lifelong subscriber to the Dodge City Globe, as well as a documentator of our paper up to date. And so thank you very much.
You're welcome. And there are things that we just can't lose it. I don't know. I do feel that we need I don't know, our paper was a daily, and I think that you can stay on top of your news a little better if you're doing it on a daily basis. It's real hard to catch up with the past if it's already happened, and can't predict the future. And on the present day, I mean, so it's difficult when you're doing that. So I would like to see us go back to dailies.
Yes, indeed. And you're not the only one. That has been the number one gripe, and I don't use that word flippantly, but concern.
Yes.
It's a concern of our readers and our lovers.
Yes, if we could just get back there. When we're talking local news, I think, I think our local news is very important, and because we are a community, and a community is made up of people. And so I think you've got a connection, and we need to keep that connection.
More reporters would be great. Yes.
Yes, I agree.
Because there's a lot of folks who care, and there's a lot of folks who can write, and there's a lot of folks who would be honored to have a byline in the Globe, of which Connie is a contributor, and thank you very much. And so is her colleague, J. Anna King. Very popular columns. Question number 3, in your opinion, what role should our newspaper play in promoting civic participation and community involvement? I guess we kind of segued into that.
Well, I think your questions are poignant and do require some thought. And so I hate to say this, but I'm going to have to read it.
Certainly, that's okay.
You sent it to me.
Yeah, that's okay.
And promoting civic participation and community involvement. Well, I think I keep going back to the connection, connecting to the various groups that are in town. Yes. That if you don't happen to travel in those circles, and if you're not associated with anyone, then you're not connected to it.
Yeah.
If we have it in the paper, and the paper is covering all of those, whatever it is, then you're connected by the paper.
Yes, indeed.
And those stories that are in the paper. So I would think that would be one of the important parts of that, because I mean, whether it's our schools participation, I don't have children in school anymore. I raised mine and got them through that, and I read the paper because what's the school up to?
Yes, indeed.
All right, so but I don't have kids in school anymore, but I'm still interested in what we're doing and what the kids are doing in our school and how they're excelling. So, that's important. as far as our churches and our civic organizations, those things are important. Again, community, again, connection. And I think that I would not, if I don't belong to that organization, I may like to participate in a fundraiser event or a celebration event that they might be holding that's open to the public. And I would be glad to do so if, it was open to the public.
Yeah.
And a lot of times on your little device in the technology, it is geared only to a small group of people. I mean, you share it, but it's shared among the same little group.
Yeah.
But if you get it in the paper and it's broad, then it's out there for the whole world to see.
Exactly.
So that's where I see the connection and the importance of why we should put it in the paper. And if I read it, then I may go and support that event.
Exactly. And y'all have made it so very apparent for me as a newcomer, just how much is going on and how much y'all care for each other, and how important timely announcements of such events is.
Right. And
especially post-COVID. Oh, now that folks are getting together again.
Oh, yes.
I mean, that's so good for your heart. And especially for those who are like the caretakers stuck at home and can't get out. At least they know that there's a world out there that knows who they are and that is inviting them to come out.
Right.
And it is now assembling again.
I think that the other thing too, that we need to cross that generation thing. As I said, we have 3 and 4 generations here. While the young people embrace this technology, we still have these generations, and they need to be able to get their information.
Yes, indeed.
You can call it old school if you want, but
But my generation needs to learn so much more from y'all than y'all need to learn from us. OMG.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
And how do we cross that generation thing and get it to everyone?
Exactly.
And so we've got to encourage the young people to pick up a newspaper.
Yes.
Pick up a publication, and that sort of thing. And I can appreciate what they're saying about their devices, and I have grandchildren who, if it isn't on the phone, it doesn't exist. Well, that isn't necessarily true.
Exactly.
So we need to cross that.
And thank goodness for you, it's you're keeping a record of the globe, and it exists thanks to the historians.
Yes.
And if only because of the historians. OMG.
Oh, and
or
what's
the hoarders.
really great about that is that we have people who are bringing us in those papers from the 1960s.
Oh, neat.
And the 70s. And to some people, I always laugh and say it can't be history because I'm still alive. But the thing about it is history.
Yeah.
And to go back and read those papers of the 1960s, I mean, there's a wealth of information
so rich.
that was in the print.
They're so rich.
That we're losing in the other technology.
And as much as I want to increase our caption size, which I have been requested to do so by some of our readers because they can't read it very well. Look at the size of the font back in the day. OMG.
Yes.
So that's my I'm sorry, ladies, I cannot increase our caption size any further because look what y'all used to have to deal with. And there was so much more. And it's moving on. What community events or activities do you believe our newspaper should cover to better connect with our residents? And you don't have to come up with some. If it doesn't, you know what I mean. We can move on.
Yeah. Again, I have to. I like
no
to
problem.
read it in
That's
print.
no problem.
And I say, events or activities do you believe our newspaper should cover to better connect with our residents?
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, if it were a daily, you could be getting some things in there in a timely manner that would connect, because a lot of times what's happening now with the way we get the paper 3 days a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, is that the event I was interested in has already happened and it's gone.
Yes, indeed.
And that
Darn it.
not being newsworthy at the time doesn't get printed because it's not timely.
Yes.
So I think we have to go back, and it has to do with daily.
I concur.
Daily information, sharing that, and and you can do it early because then you can schedule it a little better, and the time is working out. So,
and I feel readers too, you know, they're doing their best to let me know what's going on. But gosh, ideally at least 2 weeks ahead of time. And a lot of folks don't think about it. If they do think about us, which I'm always grateful when they do, often it's they don't realize our publishing schedule. They don't think about, you know, it's not, and so the onus is on them to time their announcements to me, and it should, and that's too bad, because it's not their responsibility to schedule stuff like that.
yes,
in accordance to our publication
exactly.
schedule.
So when that happens and they don't, well, then you miss that
Yeah.
information, and they just don't send it to you
Yeah.
then. And I think
that's terrible.
that it hurts the community,
Yeah.
but it also hurts the newspaper,
Yeah.
because
Then it's a swing and a miss.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, yes, indeed, and yeah, well said. Considering the current economic landscape, how can our newspaper support local businesses and contribute to economic growth in this community?
Well, the first word that comes to my mind is advertising.
Yes.
And advertising is big in print, and I would think that is how your businesses get what they have out there to the public. And again, if they have an event, they need I believe that you need more than one hit to get people to understand what it's doing.
Yeah.
And so that's why it would need to be printed more often.
Yes.
And so again, if it's a daily, you have an opportunity to do something straight in a row instead of catch can
Yes.
every Tuesday and maybe Saturday, and the event is on Monday.
Yeah.
And so scheduling would be a thing, and I say advertising, and of course economically, advertising is what kind of keeps a newspaper alive.
Yeah, 100%.
And
yes.
So and your businesses, they need the traffic, and so it really is quite a circle, and it affects everyone, and you've got to keep the circle going smoothly. You get the information,
Smoothly,
the
yeah.
business gets the information to you, you get the information out to the community comes back and they buy the product, or they at least know about the product.
Yes.
Also for me, since we are in this community, it has to do with our local businesses and being able to get what they have out there to our local community so that they buy local.
Yes.
Now, that's another topic that I probably don't want to get into because I do have some feelings
Yeah.
about that. But the thing about it is, I can certainly see and understand how that is important to our local businesses, not our corporates. I mean,
Yeah.
those like the cheese factory or our big
The plants.
the plants
Yeah.
that we
The
have
meat
out
plants,
there. Those are corporate, and I get that. They go out to the world.
Yeah.
But here locally, they have employees, and the employees do live here, and by living here, you purchase here. Whether it's gas, whether it's groceries, whether it's a gift for your neighbor. I don't care what you're buying. You want to buy home if
Yes.
you can.
Yes, indeed.
And so
if
you've
you
got
could
to
get
have
the-
advertising.
And advertising, and you know, make it sexy to give someone a subscription to the newspaper again as a you know contribution to a silent auction, or a graduation present, or you know.
Those are wonderful ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yes, indeed.
You know, and so yes. I might have to remember that. That's a good idea.
Well, thank
Whitney.
you, Miss Kitty. My goodness. Well, and we donate a couple of 6-month and 12-month subscriptions to the Catholic Charities and to things like that. And I wish that, you know, more folks remembered to put a birth announcement in the paper or a wedding announcement, but most importantly is our advertising.
It is the advertising, and when you talk about those events, I in my research, going back to the early days, and they started posting the pictures of weddings and things, and anniversaries, and I mean all kinds of stuff with pictures and full-blown description of the event and names of people, and all of that.
The delicacies they ate, and
oh my
the
goodness,
fine china they used.
Exactly.
Yes, indeed, the style.
When you, and if you're when you're doing research and you're going across the decades, you can see that change and how that started not happening.
I see.
Now, I do understand privacy. I do understand that some people don't want their name in the paper. I mean, I get it. I personally don't know why, but
yeah, right. Yeah.
I do get it.
Yeah.
And so, so a lot of that has now downsized or just completely be done away with, and we don't have that
at the same time as they're taking selfies all the time and documenting themselves.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. Historically, historically, if let's say 30 years from now, I'm asked to do some research for a family member who was here. We don't have anything. Because it was left out of the paper.
Exactly. And it used to be that folks were in the paper when they 3 times in their life: when they're born, when they're married, and when they pass away. And now folks can't even afford an obituary.
I was just going to say that now what I've noticed is on the obituaries is that the service has already been held, and I would have liked to have gone.
Gosh darn, yes indeed. And that's our readers, that's our number one audience, and that's why they pick up the paper.
Yeah.
We got rid of the coupons, we got rid of the TV guide, except we brought ours back a little bit, you know what I mean? But gosh darn it, those obits are so important.
They
and
really
the timeliness.
truly are. And who that person was, and how they were involved in the community.
And we don't even write our own anymore, and then took that away from us. And by they, I mean just the
there's a lot of those, and it has to do with the 3 things you just noted.
Yeah.
When you're born, and when you get married, and when you pass on.
It's so important.
And those are so important, and that documentation is gone.
And so I'm sure glad that we're still here for those who are true believers and are true and who can still afford to stay connected and who are very patient, and you number one among them, Miss Kitty. I thank you so much for caring for the globe, and for documenting the globe, and for collecting it, and for our future, because if not for you, who?
Exactly. Well, I'm just going to say too that my predecessors, people who were with the Historical Society prior to my involvement, were very good caretakers for that, because they have a vertical file that is amazing, that has
yes,
the newspaper articles in it. You can get a topic, you go there and you look, and there is a newspaper article.
That's beautiful.
And so the vertical file, and why we are saving that history. And
it's a dream.
I wish I could get that across to the young people.
Yeah.
I understand, but I don't know. Here again, they didn't ask me, so
but I did.
Deal with it.
I did. I know your value, Miss Penny, Miss Connie Penick, and thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, you're welcome.
And thanks for all you've done for Dodge City, from nose to toes. I love you.
Thank you very much, Whitney.